Thank you for joining me today. I have this small bench which a friend dropped around the other day. It's sewn together and then pulled on, so it's just two parts. There's the seat and the back. The back I'm going to have to alter slightly because the fabric that's on here can go either way and the fabric that's going on only goes one way. So I'm going to make a little bit of an alteration for that so the pattern makes sense if you walk around the whole item. So let's get on with it. This has been put on with back tacking on this side. It does look a lot neater, but it's not really that necessary, and I'll remove the cover as the first part of the project. The seat cover is just 3 pieces, nice and easy, 1 centerpiece and 2 sides. The back seat should be just as easy, but the pattern that I'm using has an up and down, whereas this one you can run either way, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do, I'm going to measure right up to the top here, and I am going to be putting a seam along the back. So the back of the bench goes up, as it should do, and the front of the bench also goes up. That should work out. This is such an all-over pattern. There's no start or finish. This is where it's been cut out for samples, so I'll just even it out across the bottom. The piece that I need for the seat is 32 inches, so I'll just push that up. I'll cut it at 33 and then cut down, so I've got an even width. Nice and easy. I can do this one of 2 ways. I could just measure down to the base of the pattern and cut across, or the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to line it up. There's the bottom of that pattern, there's the bottom of that pattern, and just cut all the way along that fold like that. And then I've got the inside back, the outside back and the seat. I didn't notice this the other day. I was cutting it out about 10 o'clock at night, so I was rather exhausted. But what I did notice was there was curvature. Before I cut the back out, I need to work out where it comes to. The base of my ruler is where the stitching is. The top is there on that pattern, which I'm going to extend over. Make sure it's even or thereabouts. It doesn't have to be perfect. To there. Hold that firm, and I'm going to measure down from the back. So it's basically 2 1/4 inches. Now I know an inch of this goes underneath, which means an inch of that goes underneath. Now I will put a pin right there at the top so that I know that that's where I'm measuring it from. Here is my pin on this side because I want the pattern to match here if I can. I'm not sure how much fabric I've got. This ended up being a bigger pattern than I had anticipated. I'm going to just double check that. Always double check everything you do. That is, when I come to it, where I need to measure from down to the bottom of the back if I have enough fabric. The difference from the bottom of the side is 2 inches. Now I know that it goes under an inch, so it's not as bad as I thought. So if I put that under an inch to there, the difference is only an inch. Pin along there to mark it. So on my original piece I need it to come to here and then add 2 inches at the bottom for the back. It's a bit confusing. If I've got enough fabric I'll do it. If not, I'm going to just have to put it in the same as it is on the front. Nobody's really going to notice. As I say, the pattern is all over, so it's really not that much of a problem. Now the other thing I need to remember, they obviously didn't have quite enough fabric, so they added a piece on the bottom. And for the front, they also added a piece at the bottom and that at the side to make sure this came round. What I think I'm going to do is add a little bit extra to the base of the side piece, so I don't need to do that. When you're doing this kind of thing, you can often work out little things that you might need to do instead. Another thing is they should have added fabric here because this is the selvage. Now I know the fabric that I'm using is a lot wider than this, so I don't have to worry about that. Not even on the seat, and the seat had extra pieces added to it. So my joint is going to be as close to that corner as possible at the top, which means I'm going to measure from the base to the top, and I need a piece of fabric with base and added. I'm going to make it 28 inches, and for the front I'm going to put that over 1/2 inch like that, follow this round to the bottom here, which is 22 inches, at least 23 inches if I can, and if I need to, I've got enough scrap fabric to add onto it. I'm going to have to juggle with the pattern slightly to make sure I've got all the pieces. And then I've got the 2 side pieces that need to come out. I really don't want to have to join them, but if I do have to pattern match, I'll do it really low to the bottom so it's not so obvious. But I'll see what I've got. The next thing I'm going to do is measure the width of the original fabric. It's usually 54 inches, but if I rely on 54 inches and it's 53, then I make a mistake. So always make sure of what size you're cutting to. This one that I'm cutting from is 58.5, I think. So I'm going to measure the width of the original piece and then cut the new piece down to that size. Not only that, they could have tramlined it, in which case you wouldn't know how big it was. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin at my 30 there, pull that all the way across and measure from 30 to the end. And this is 57 inches wide. So if I assumed it was 54, then I would have messed up. So I've got to cut this down to 57 inches. Half of 57 is 28.5. I found my halfway mark there, put that on at 28.5, slide that across, and that is how much I need to take off. If I go to the edge of there, it's 1 inch and 1/8 that I need to cut off that side. I don't want to just fold it in half and assume I've got what I need. I always do it separately. I've messed up more times than I can say by doing it that way. I'm going to make my mark like that. So I do it separately on both sides of the outside back and inside back. Pop that there, double check, that's where I want it. I could take it to there, where it's woven is more stable, so it's just under 1 inch. I'll square it off and make it 1 inch all the way up. It won't matter too much because the fabric will stretch. This is why you do it separately. Having measured out from the centre here, I'm just cutting half 1 inch off. So it was 1 inch off one side and half 1 inch off the other. And I will automatically take that off the outside back. And it's right to the fluffy piece. Be careful because you want to make it exact. I've got the sides of the bench to do. If I line that to the centre here so that I can get that out, so if I line that up, I end up being a couple of inches short, which I don't want. I am going to pull this over and line that up with this here. I don't like wasting this much fabric, but sometimes you have to. Fortunately, I had a very sensible woman cutting of the fabric. She advised my friend to get an extra 3/4 of a yard, so I'm pleased she did. I think what I'm going to do to make sure that I get all the way down like this, this is my focal point against that part of here, and I've got plenty to go down the bottom. It looks like my warp and weft threads are there. Let's see whether I can straighten that up a little bit to there. So long as both ends are the same, I'm going to do it like this, which means that has to pull out. It's going to look a little bit funky, but I think it's going to be fine. As long as it comes in around about there, I think I'll be okay. No, I've got to start changing direction when I get here. Maybe I'll lower it just a little bit more. Roll that into position roughly and then go down a bit. So there is my match. I'm going to bring it down just a wee tad more to make sure I've got everything I need at the top end. And then I'm going to match this on the other side. So cut that one out and then flip it and cut it out the other side. On the second side, I've folded everything over. I will make sure that all of these patterns match up, more so on the front than the back. I'll start cutting this up and pattern match as I go all the way up. Now I have cut this in like this because that tells me where I need to start sewing from on the front. Up I go and round. I have a mark on the top of this one to show where I need to start sewing. Make sure that my raw edges are on top of each other so they are already angled. Take my pin out, forward and back, just a few stitches. Line everything up. It's not going to pattern match very well at any point on this side, but it's close enough. Go around the curve. Remove my pin. The only thing that really kind of matches up is at the top here with those. even those out and pull it into position. Here again, that's more or less level, and on round, all the way to the top. Now the weight of this fabric keeps pulling it out of line, so I might have to go around a second time just so that I can keep my 1/2 inch seam allowance. At the top here, I am going to follow it round. What I'm doing is I'm pulling the fabric round so the raw edges are together, keeping the bottom piece flat. It's a little bit awkward actually, because it doesn't really want to go where I want it to go. The back does come down slightly, so when I put the outside on, I'll just join it and carry on down. I have to see how I feel about that. I'll think about that. Now I've got to work out how to get the other side on, starting at that end. I am going to put a little clip across where that finishes, like that. I have a little bit of a square here. I'm going to make sure that I have a little bit of a square as I start sewing in. I think it's more like that. I'm going to pin it so I can't move it. I put it across so that my sewing machine goes over that, and I'm going to have to pull it right in and round straight away. It's a bit awkward doing it that way, but as long as I try to match up as I go down the first parts of the pattern, everything should go into place. So long as I've got it similar to here on this side and similar to there. It's not perfect. I think that works. It kind of makes sense. This is really, really awkward. So I've twisted everything out and around. I'm going to start my sewing here, forward and back. It's going to be close enough. So forward and back. Remove the pin, and I've got to force all of this in all the way around first. It's easier if you don't have to do it straight off the bat, but never mind, one of those things. Take it slowly, don't rush it. Lift the foot up if you need to, because it gets caught behind the foot. Where am I going to first? I think orange to orange, round about there. So I really need all of this into position so it starts looking good. It might not line up exactly, and that's fine, it's on the other end, but I just try. As long as it lines up a little bit further down, I'll be happy. What I do know is it'll be long enough to go all the way down and stop where I need it to stop. Having pinned the project together, I think what I'm going to do is undo that little section there, sew it across and then carry on down, which means I will alter the other end of the piece of fabric to accommodate that new idea. Coming around the top of this one to join up here, I'm having to twist underneath and twist on top so that it all goes into place. It should all fit, but the fabric's quite thick and therefore is a little bit difficult to deal with. I think that's it. It's taken me about half an hour just to get this one little piece in at the top here. So I took it out, put it in, took it out, put it in. So don't rush anything. Even I still struggle. I'm going to put it on upside down, but preferably facing the right way. I'm going to pop on this end like this, pull it down and around, and I will tell you, getting these things started is usually the most awkward part of this project. You could do a headboard like this actually. It might just be tight because I've got to get it started. Oh, blimey. Please have done this right. Maybe I pulled it too far down on here. The trick is to get that absolutely. If it's not on the end, it ain't going to work. So let's try again. It might take me a couple of goes to get it all started. Pull all of this across the back, like that, and then on. Oh, golly gosh. Anyway, that's the theory. Managed to get it started on this side, push the dacron around the back so it gets caught into position. I'm going to ease that side down and then go back to the other side and ease this down as well. Doing the same thing, keeping the dacron at the back. A couple of inches, an inch or so, there we go. It's just going to take a little bit of time to get on. On this side, there's foam here right down to the end. I'm going to come along here slightly and at an angle into that corner. Not too close. I'm going to cut it midway along the leg. I don't want too much. This I'm going to leave open, but this I'm going to fold back. there is a seam there, so it could go across the bottom here. Pop that up slightly. That needs to be more on the corner, so I'll cut a little bit up and across. That's so that where I have cut it, I can still pop that up underneath and then under there. But it's really imperative that this is on the side. It's a little bit bulky, but that's one of those things. I can put a little bit more padding under there and it should be okay. Fold that back so it's flat and pull it over and under. Maybe I do need to cut a little bit more. Take it back a little bit. Perfect. I should have zigzagged it. I really didn't think about it. Pull that back to the side. Pull that down, and it comes almost 1/4 inch up from the bottom. So in order to make sure that the top is even, I'm going to secure this along here at about 1/4 inch in from the bottom edge. I'm not taking it off again just to do that. It's well under here, so nobody's ever going to notice it. It takes a little minute to make sure everything's where I want it and secure. What I really need to do is make sure that this pattern here is even from one to the other as I go across. Just like I did on the other side, I'm going to cut that across slightly, midway down, pull that to the side and cut in to here at an angle. I've had to put Dacron here because there wasn't any. I'm going to cut the seam a little bit higher like that so I can open the bottom of the seam up and it will be less bulky. And I'll fold that up and under. I'll open the seam up there too, like that. I'll get the other side better as well. There we are, under there. And then I'll secure it this end. On this side, I'm going to fold everything over where I need it. Push that back and on round. And I'm going to staple that for now so that I know where it is. I've managed to pull this down. It's level with the piece of wood here, or close enough. I'm just going to cut up to there and a little bit outside and then down, and then I'm going to secure it. I've got clearance for when I want to put the bolt into place. I've readjusted the outside so it comes almost level with the base here, opened up so that I can put my bolts back in, and secured everything down the side and across. I've cut the fabric to go into this area. I'm going to slide the leg into place so it takes the fabric into place. I'm going to screw that down so it won't move. The next bolt goes here and here when I put the seat into position. Just pulled over 2 layers of fabric. I've made sure it's quite tight, and I'm going to pull the old seat foam back into place and secure it so that doesn't move. Pull that on at the front and this side first and see how well it goes on the opposite side. I need to push it around a little bit to get it into place, and maybe move it up this way and secure it from the other side. I think that's looking pretty good actually. This is the outside back, and I'm going to pull this right in like that to the top there as far as I can for now. And I'm going to pull the side in all the way to the inside of here for now. Here, I think I'm just going to pull it flat and just make sure that that looks nice from the side. A little bit more that way, I think. It is going to be covered with bottom cloth, but I don't want it to be too lumpy. I'm going to cut that in and out so that that looks smooth. I'll staple here. And then I'll pull that over like that. So from the outside it's going to look really quite smooth. I don't want it to look lumpy, and secure it. I'm going to make my way all the way down the side, and all I'm doing is I'm pulling it up. I'm not pushing it either way, I'm just pulling it up and into position, and I'm going to secure it. If anything, I'm going to push it towards the back because I don't want too much fabric at the front. That looks okay. At the front, I'm pushing the fabric towards there and into position. I think that's going to look fine across here. And the same at the front. I'm just going to push it up and over to that point. I'm coming a little bit further forward and just bringing it up and into position and stapling here. And then I will work these corners in. They really need to come up quite tight. On the original came down and into place like that. So I suppose I better do the same and in. I don't know whether I like that. I think what I'll do is I'll get this other side in. This might move across to the other end and take some of that out. Or I might have to just work it more to the back. But I'll play with it and make sure everything goes in like it should. I will cut some of the bulk out because although on the original it went inside and was secured, I don't want all that bulk there inside. So I have to be very careful about what I do there. I'm going to do the other side just like this, start at the back and move it to the back. I have a mark here. It's just slightly off centre, so I need to bring my centre a little bit to the right, up and over. And then just up and over all the way along to the end that I've already started working on. If I bring it up and over, it shouldn't pleat. I'm trying to avoid any puckering and pleating. If anything, I'm going to try to bring it this way so that that doesn't happen. I did measure everything across to make sure that it was the right size. It's a little bit puckery along the front. It's not going to be a problem, but it should go in quite smoothly and even out. If I had shortened it, it might have only been maybe 1/4 of an inch off each end, which really isn't very much in the big scheme of things, so I'm just going to try to make it work. I think it'll be fine. I'll work that way and get that right on the corner and then pull it all to the back, I think. It's a different kind of fabric. This is quite firm because it's a jacquard, whereas the other was a cotton. If that's the extent of the pleating, it can go on the end. That should take it all in. Coming along the back now, I've cut out for the bolts to go through, and I'm just bringing this up to more or less the same level along here so it's nice and even. And I'll do that all the way along. Along the outside edge, I've put some staples down the side there to hold it in place, and I'm going to cut it down here. I have to make sure I go down far enough to there, and although I'm going to bring this up, I am going to have to put a pleat in it somewhere here so that I don't cause any problems. So I think I'll go down this side. I want this to be a nice curve under here, so I'm going to bring that in. I'll staple it something like that so that it holds the shape there but doesn't show at the top. The other leg was really quite tight, and this one is not so tight. So I'm going to put a piece of card across the front, lower it into position, and hopefully, there we go, secure it, and it should hold tight. I'll secure it so the leg isn't wobbly, but I don't think it is. I'll just tighten it up and that'll be fine. Now what I've got to do is put the bolts in. This one had a super long one at the bottom and a short one at the top. There we go. And then I've got equal bolts to go in the corners. Tightening these up and then do the rest. This has got to be level at the bottom. Should go in evenly. The base here, although I put it on evenly, isn't. So I ended up not putting all of the bolts right in until I had everything screwed where it needed to be, and then I tightened the bolts down. Otherwise, if they are off, you're not going to get anything in place. I'm pleased with that. Now for the bottom cloth. Thank you for joining me on this project. I'm actually really pleased the way that it turned out. Some pattern matches are really good and others are a little bit off, but it was a bit difficult because usually you have everything in place and you can work out your pattern matches from there. I think overall it's turned out really pretty. I'm hoping my friends are going to be pleased with it, and I hope I imparted some useful information to you. If you'd like to hear more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be brilliant. And in the meantime, take care. See you later. Ciao.